All right, y'all, what's up? Astonishing X-Men, really dope take from back in the day.
Throw it back a little
We're
bit.
going to throw it back. We're going to break it down, talk it out. Will it be in the MCU? No, we'll talk it out real quick. Mike, bust it down real quick. Your memories of Astonishing X-Men.
Let's see. So, Astonishing X-Men was I think it took place from Astonishing X-Men 1 all the way through about 24 or 25. Then it goes to the giant size issue, and this was written by Joss Whedon.
Hey.
You might recognize that name. He directed Avengers.
Oh, yeah?
You know, Buffy, Firefly.
Woo.
You know, bunch of great stuff. And the art was done by John Cassidy.
Yeah.
Right? An amazing, astonishing run. Many people regard it as one of the greatest X-Men stories of all time.
Definitely.
And it was so popular that they even ended up doing motion comics for it.
Yeah. That's when they jumped off, I think.
Right. And then, you know, a lot of people learned about it through that. But we want to talk about it again because it's a story that I find myself going back to over and over again to read it, because you have a small core team. You want to run through who those mutants are that represent the X-Men in this story?
Bet. Got your boy Slim. You got Cyclops.
Not me.
Ooh, we got Cyclops.
Yeah.
Wolverine's in the mix. Kitty Pryde, pivotal role. Oh snap! Wait, Emma.
Yes.
Emma Frost is in there, which
Yes.
was like, oh snap. I don't want to say the last one yet. There's a couple more, but Armor, who at the time was still
Armor is one of those younger mutants who gets that upgrade up to the main team. Don't forget McCoy.
Oh, Beast is a part of that squad.
Beast is definitely a part of the squad.
I just remember the whole. Anyway, so that's this. It's a tight team. Joss Whedon likes to work with ensembles, but it's one person that we didn't mention because it's a gigantic spoiler. But it's been 10 years, so tell them who it was.
Yeah, I got to deal with it, but Pietro come back, you know? Colossus.
Oh!
Right? Colossus comes through, Mr. Rasputin. And definitely, you know, that moment when he comes back, very iconic. You know, Kitty, she's infiltrating a base with the X-Men team. She goes to a place where only she can go with her phasing powers. And she's told that there's a weapon behind these walls that she can't really phase through easily. She gets through them. And then she lays eyes on Colossus, who doesn't hesitate when he sees her, runs right through her. She's just stunned in that moment, but has the wherewithal to stay phased. He runs through her to take some bad guys out, and then they have their reunion, which is very emotional.
I just remember the actual panels, because she's running through, it's like, whom, phasing, and then she freezes.
Yep.
And you just see him, and he's like in red, because there's like red lights around.
Red lights.
And he just looks up. They meet eyes, and then he goes right through. I was like, oh! And yeah, that was iconic. Matter of fact, was that the cover?
I don't think it was the cover. There was definitely an iconic cover with them, you know, in a very sensual embrace. I mean, Kitty Pryde, she's always played an important role in the X-Men, and she goes by Kate Pryde now.
Yes.
You know, she's always played a pivotal role. She was always like the youngest in the group. And then her claim to fame early on was Magneto almost killed her.
Facts.
You know, and he felt some type of way. He went on a whole spiritual journey because he almost took out a fellow mutant, a fellow Jewish person, you know, and he felt that very deeply. And he had a whole turnaround there with his character after that moment. But from there, you know, this storyline is really where she shined. She was the centerpiece of this story.
We watched the maturation, like the straight up maturing of this character happen. That's a short amount of time, I feel like, for a character who's been around for so long. But we get that, and I just remember that it was the legacy virus. That's what took Colossus out.
Yes.
I was like, after all of that.
He sacrificed himself and died to the legacy virus. That's right. So, I mean, Kitty Pryde, she gets invited back to the X-Mansion after being gone for a long time. And she doesn't know this, but she's actually invited back by the White Queen herself, Emma Frost. And Emma Frost, who used to be a bad guy, but maybe want to give a little background, you know,
was a big bad guy. Was the White Queen of the Hellfire Club.
She was the baddest. I mean, I'm just say that.
But she went back and forth being headmaster of various X schools. Back and forth, kind of trying to figure out her place. But it's here in Astonishing where we actually get Emma to be here, and she's on the good. She's the devil on the angel side.
That's right. And to make sure that she stays in check, that's why she has Kitty come in, because Kitty was one of the X-Men that weren't with her at Genosha. They weren't with her when she just left the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
You know, and Emma recognizes in herself, I need somebody here who I can trust enough to check me if I go, you know, too far to that side that's not in the best interest of, you know, the school, the kids, because that's always what's most important to Emma.
Is Astonishing where the Emma Frost Cyclops tryst started?
No. You're referring to New X-Men when Jean walks in on their psychic. There's so many levels to that. We'll talk about that in another video.
Like a novella.
Right, but in Astonishing, her and Cyclops are already a thing. But I tell you what, the rest of the X-Men team, they're still kind of like trying to analyze, you know, like what's going to come of this. Is she just using him? Is he just using her to get over Jean? But really in this series is where I feel the pairing between Scott and Emma is an even more natural and mutual and respectful pairing than Scott and Jean. Because Scott, you know, in a lot of ways leaned on Jean and Jean leaned on Scott, but it was never in a balance.
Facts.
You know?
Jean is like Kagome and Inuyasha. Kagome! Anyway. Something that I remember standing out a lot in Astonishing, focusing back on Kitty Pryde, Kate.
Well, she was Kitty then.
She was Kitty.
Yeah, you're right. She Kate Pryde.
Focusing back on Shadowcat, use the alias. She made a particularly gigantic sacrifice. The kind they say, X-Men never die. Comic book characters never really die. But so they created a kind of exile for this for Kitty Pryde that I had never seen prior to that.
Man.
Expound.
Yeah, I mean, the X-Men find themselves, the overarching story is there's a threat, you know, to the planet. They don't quite know what it is, but then they eventually discover what that is. And there's this whole other alien race that has a weapon pointed right to our planet. And that weapon it's not a missile that you can hack. You know, it's not even a ship. It's literally a gigantic bullet, like the shape of Texas, aimed right at our planet, and boom, they fire it. And once a bullet is fired, you know, it's moving at such a speed that it's not even like Magneto could stop it. You know, Keanu, he's not there to stop it. You know, and before that bullet got fired, the only thing that could be done is it had a stowaway, and that was one Kate Pryde,
who really went the OD extra limit and chose to phase the whole bullet through the planet, despite it being made of something that made it difficult for her to do that.
Yes.
So I remember you telling me before, it took all our concentration really to do that and to get it through the planet, but then it doesn't stop there. It's a bullet in motion.
It still goes. So
it's just, she's just kind of going through the cosmos, stuck inside this bullet. And I remember reading that and being like, damn, don't think I've ever seen a sacrifice that big. We've seen Wolverine put the claws through Jean, Dark Phoenix flow.
Yeah.
We've seen, we could just say we've seen Wolverine die, like get blown his memory, mad time. But this felt more realistic, and it falls in line with Joss Whedon's whole thing. Is like the cost of war is that somebody's got to go.
Yeah, and she goes. And the thing about it is the way he builds up to it. You know, he for the fans he brings back, you know, Kitty and Colossus. And, you know, we see them awkwardly trying to, you know, reconnect. And then eventually they definitely connect. But then that gets ripped away, but in the most heroic type of way. And, you know, Emma, the irony is that Emma brought Kitty on board to keep her in check. But it wasn't just for that. She had enormous respect for Kitty's potential. And, you know, when Kitty started doubting herself, Emma reminds her, you know, like, you know, I brought you here because you know what? None of us could do this. Only you could.
But yeah. And so, you know, ended like this amazing run on Astonishing X-Men. Joss Whedon really did his thing in bringing and landing that group from that kind of super flashy, we can't beat us group in the 90s to not only can we be defeated, but even in winning, we can lose a little bit. If it's to sacrifice for the sake of humankind. Definitely.
And you know, that's the bullet phase part, that's the culmination of the story. There are also other really awesome badass moments. Cyclops has an amazing moment where he puts together a plan right before your eyes and you don't even know it. And they come back to it in a clever way. I'll leave that open in case you do want to go back and read it. Which I hope you do after hearing this.
Please.
But one thing that's really tight about it is the dialogue. Joss Whedon excels at that group dynamic and the chemistry, the dialogue. And I'll tell you what, you could read this, like the script of this comic book series with the names redacted, and you'd still be able to identify, who's Wolverine, who's Beast, who's Cyclops, because he's able to nail the tone of these characters with their words in a way that very few writers have and can.
I mean, this was definitely like Astonishing was a super bump level up for the writing in comics after that, and we'll be hard pressed outside of the most recent iteration, Hickman's iteration, to find a better written or better designed X-Men story.
Word. And that's all due respect to the new X-Men run with Morrison and Quietly. All due respect to them. Thanks. They definitely brought the X-Men back to the forefront for a while. But Astonishing was like that little tweak, that little retcon to make the very mind-bending stories of Morrison a little bit more digestible and down to the core for the fans. And I mean, hey, if the MCU is looking for a story to adapt for the X-Men,
that's a doozy.
Astonishing is on a very short list of ways that they could go.
They could reintroduce Colossus with that. But that said,
not the Colossus that Deadpool knows either.
No. But that was Astonishing. If you remember Astonishing, you want to talk about it, hit us in the comments. If you about to read it, put us on. Yeah. I really hope they make this in the MCU.
Me too. I mean, I want to see Kate Pryde flourish.
Facts. That's us. Read it.
Thanks for joining us for this throwback.
Woo! Phase out.